The revolutionary forces in Venezuela rallied Thursday to commemorate the 36th anniversary of the 1989 popular revolt known as El Caracazo. Russian President Vladimir Putin said renewed contacts with the United States government raise hope based on the nation's mutual desire for cooperation. And in Palestine, citizens began preparations to welcome the holy month of Ramadan in the midst of the crisis caused by the Israeli genocide. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. The revolutionary forces in Venezuela rallied Thursday to commemorate the 36th anniversary of the 1989 popular revolt known as El Caracazo. The mobilization was presided over by Bolivarian President Nicolás Maduro, who recalled the events leading to the heroic event 36 years ago. El Caracazo took place on February 27, 1989, with a wave of protest, riots and looting in the Venezuelan city of Guarenas, and later spread to Caracas and surrounding towns following austerity measures issued by President Carlos Andrés Pérez. According to estimates, the week-long riots resulted in thousands of deaths, attributed largely to the popular confrontation with security and military forces. In another part of his address, Maduro spoke about the process of consolidation of the communes and communal circuits across the nation and said it was the most important task of all. The Bolivarian president also said as an ideal objective to have in 2027 the self-governments of the nation's 6,000 communes running full-time in an organized way.
We have great tasks in full development. The process of consolidation of the communes and communal circuits is the mother of all tasks, to consolidate the power in the territory. The 5,338 communal circuits should move on. And I have told Angel Comuna Prado, where is Angel Comuna? We should have advanced in the consolidation of its organization. Of its political and government, and within 70 days we should have installed, by April 27th, we should have installed the communal self-government halls in all 5,338 communal circuits.
The government of Venezuela described as harmful and inexplicable the U.S. decision to cancel the agreements for oil operations between the two countries. Referring to the alleged infringement of preset conditions, the United States announced its decision to suspend the license given to U.S. companies such as Chevron Oil Company to operate in Venezuelan territory. Venezuelan officials have pointed out that the U.S. arguments lack evidence and show the imperialist spirit of these decisions, which harm not only Venezuela but the U.S. people as well. The concession had been granted on November 26, 2022 by the Biden administration. In this context, the Executive Vice President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, expressed through her social networks, this February 26th, the government of the United States has made a harmful and inexplicable decision by announcing sanctions against the U.S. company Chevron, pretending to harm the Venezuelan people. It is actually harming the United States, its population and its companies, also calling into question the legal security of the United States in its international investment regime. In In turn, Rodriguez stated that the constitutional government of Venezuela and its people in great national union categorically rejects these type of actions publicly requested by the country's extremist and failed opposition. Venezuela emphasizes that these type of failed actions drove the migration of the year 2017 to the 2021 with the widely known consequences. Venezuela will continue on its path of integral economic recovery, guaranteeing it with the creative effort of all and in absolute adherence to its sovereignty and national independence. And the ALBA TCP bloc issued an official statement rejecting the U.S. decision to revoke oil licenses granted to U.S. companies to operate in Venezuelan territory. In this way, the bloc stated that the ALBA TCP categorically rejects these extortionist actions which seeks to harm the economic, political and social stability of the sister Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. They also underlined that ALBA TCP considers it extremely contradictory that the current government of the United States, which boasts so much about its policies to control migration to its territory, imposes measures to affect the oil industry, the heart of the Venezuelan economy, while disregarding the fact that similar actions in past years caused notable migratory flows to the United States. They ended by demanding respect to Venezuelan sovereignty. The president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, condemned the aggressions of fascism against the Venezuelan people, reaffirming his commitment to the defense of the national territory to continue advancing in the strengthening of all sectors nationwide.
Avanzar como pueblo, porque somos pueblo, nosotros sí somos un pueblo.
Moving forward as a people because we are people. We are conscious people who has been united, strengthened and victorious in all battles. We are like David. I always say so to the Goliaths worldwide. I always say to them, here is David blessed by God with all their strength, and with all the blessings and the blessings of all the people. Here is David against Goliath. The great David is the Venezuelan people, and its power and its civic military police union that no one messes with Venezuela. No one messes again with Venezuela. And those fascists requesting aggressions toward our country, they will be brought to justice. They will have to be brought to justice. Those fascists urging to attack Venezuela. Venezuela cannot be attacked. Venezuela cannot be touched. Venezuela must be respected. And we must make our country be respected in order to continue advancing in each of our plans.
The Confederation of State Workers in Argentina has announced a new national strike to protest the policies of Javier Milei's government. The organization assured they will remain in the streets to try to stop the adjustments that are destroying the social and productive fabric of the nation. They also affirmed that the actions are aimed at recovering the salaries and pensions that have been taken away from them by Milei's government. The union explained that the surprise factor of these demonstrations intends to avoid the repression unleashed against those who demand respect for their rights. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The Mexican government hopes to reach an agreement with the United States to definitively suspend tariffs on Mexican companies before the end of the tariff pause deadline. During her morning press conference on Thursday, President Claudia Sheinbaum confirmed that a delegation was sent to Washington to talk with Donald Trump's administration on issues such as trade and security. She specified March 4th as the deadline for the tariff pause and the suspension of the 25% tariffs. In addition, the president ratified her willingness to establish the agreement with the North American nation while respecting Mexico's sovereignty.
We are in the work process. Today, as you know, the security team is in Washington in a meeting with Secretary Rubio and with different public servants from different secretaries of the United States government or departments, as they call them over there, of the United States. And well, let's see what news we have at the end of the day. Secretary Ebrard is also in Washington, and the Secretary of Finance is also leaving today to Washington, and we will wait these days to see. It is Tuesday, March 4th. Hopefully we will be able to talk to President Trump once these meetings take place, so let's wait.
Likewise, the Mexican president reiterated her commitment to the defense of the sovereignty and principles of both nations.
We are looking for a coordination agreement within the framework of our sovereignty and principles. That is essentially it. Then, in the security team, to find coordination mechanisms, information mechanisms, as I have said, for example in intelligence and investigation. We can share a lot of information that allows the United States to arrest criminals in the United States, and in Mexico to do the same. And in that framework, many agreements can be made within the limits of the protection of our sovereignty and of our laws and the Constitution. So there are already advances in some documents that have been worked on. Well, we are going to see today how that meeting goes, and also on the trade issue. The objective is to protect the trade agreement between Mexico, the United States and Canada, and within that framework see what actions can be developed to strengthen the three economies.
Russian President Vladimir Putin said Thursday that the renewed contacts with the United States government arises hope based on a mutual desire to establish cooperation between both nations. The statements were made during a meeting of Russia's Federal Security Service, where the head of state affirmed that there was a mutual dedication to work towards restoring interstate relations and gradually resolving the enormous volume of accumulated systemic and strategic problems in the global architecture. The rapprochement between Moscow and Washington comes after President Putin and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump talked over the phone on February 12th to deal with issues related to Ukraine, the Middle East, prisoners exchange, Iran's nuclear program, and the state of relations between both nations.
Give rise to some hopes. There is a mutual willingness to work to restore relations and gradually resolve a colossal number of systemic strategic problems in the global architecture. It was these problems that at the time provoked the crisis in Ukraine and other regions.
On the other hand, the Russian president stressed that some elites around the world are not happy with the renewed contacts between Moscow and the United States.
We understand that not everyone is happy with the resumption of Russian-U.S. contacts. Some Western elites are determined to maintain instability in the world, and these forces will try to undermine or compromise the dialogue that has begun. We see it coming, so we must take this into account and use all our diplomatic resources and those of our special services to foil such attempts.
In other informations, the Vatican Press Office announced early Thursday that Pope Francis has experienced a new and slight improvement according to the medical report from Rome's Gemelli Hospital, where he is being treated. After being admitted to hospital on February 14th for bronchitis with polymicrobial infection and then bilateral pneumonia, Francisco's state of health has improved over the last 24 hours. A computed tomography scan of his chest carried out on Wednesday night showed a normal evolution of his lung condition, although he continues to receive oxygen, although there is no respiratory crisis at the moment. They also detailed that the renal insufficiency has improved and that he is no longer in a critical condition. We have a second survey coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Find a short break, we'll be right back. Welcome back to From the South. In Syria, 2 children were killed after a remnant of war shell exploded in Deraa governorate in the south of the country. The Syrian defense reported that the 2 dead were brothers and another minor was injured by the detonation. The United Nations Office for Humanitarian Affairs reported that since December 2024, more than 430 deaths and injuries have been recorded due to the detonation of explosive devices. Incidents of explosions of mines and unexploded ordnance continue in several Syrian regions. Palestinian prisoners who were released from Israeli jails show signs of torture and starvation. Over the last 24 hours, more than 600 Palestinians were released in accordance with the prisoners' exchange deal of the first phase of the ceasefire agreement between Hamas and Israel. Israeli authorities forced Palestinian detainees to wear T-shirts with threatening phrases at the time of the release in order to humiliate them. Also, several Palestinians were transported in ambulances to hospitals south of Gaza, some with serious injuries due to torture while in detention. In Palestine, citizens began preparations to welcome the holy month of Ramadan in the midst of the crisis caused by the Israeli genocide. Citizens decorated the enclave's streets with traditional decorations to celebrate the religious event. Moreover, merchants offered their products while parishioners improvised prayer centers after the destruction of their temples. Ramadan, also known as the month of fasting, is a time of prayer and reflection and corresponds to the 9th month of the Islamic calendar and the holiest of the Islamic culture. It lasts 29 or 30 days from the crescent moon until the next crescent moon. The United Nations has warned that the humanitarian situation in Sudan has deteriorated following an increase in violence in recent weeks. The international body described the crisis in the African country as catastrophic after almost 2 years of conflicts between the army and the rapid support forces. The United Nations says the crisis has inflicted immense suffering and turned the nation into a hell. It also reports that more than 12 million people have been displaced, including 3.4 million who have fled across Sudan's borders. Moreover, the organization notes that more than half the country, some 24.6 million people, are suffering from acute hunger as fighting has destroyed countless livelihoods. The Russian and the United States delegations met Thursday in Turkey as part of the approaching process of the parties on the conflict with Ukraine. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that the meeting will address the systemic problems that have accumulated as a result of the illegal activities of the former U.S. administration in creating artificial obstacles to the work of the Russian embassy. For his part, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said last Monday that the White House is preparing to begin to outline what Russia would need to do to deal with the conflict in Ukraine. The first talks between the two delegations took place last February 18th in Saudi Arabia and have been described as very positive by the representatives of both countries. Bolivia holds the Anara Andina Festival, a traditional indigenous people celebration in gratitude to the Pachamama, the Mother Earth, for the agricultural production and its development in the rainy season. The event began with a ceremony of offering to Mother Earth, led by masters, or as they say, amautas. The festival of the native peoples of the Bolivarian department of Oruro counts with the participation of more than 100 fraternities to the rhythm of music and ancestral autochthonous dances. The event takes place 2 days before the Oruro Carnival and marks the beginning of the agricultural cycle linked to the Andean culture and also traditions. Also in Brazil, preparations continue for Carnival 2025 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Several Brazilian samba schools are rehearsing what will be their caravans for the traditional Carnival parades starting this Saturday, March 1st. The Ministry of Tourism highlights the importance of the event in strengthening various economic sectors, such as street vendors and hotels, as well as mobilizing national and international tourism. The Carnival of Rio de Janeiro, the world showcase of these festivities, will have 482 carnival blocks to welcome around 8 billion visitors, along with cities such as Sao Paulo, Minas Gerais, and Pernambuco. And with this information, we have come to the end of this news brief. But you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.